Captain Daeho Kim stood on the bridge of the warship Indomitable and watched the stars. He had been in space for 3 months now, patrolling the edge of human territory. It was quiet work, boring work, but he knew that could change at any moment. Earth had joined the Galactic Coalition 30 years ago. It seemed like a good thing at the time. Humanity finally had friends among the stars. They could trade with alien species. They could learn new technology. They could be part of something bigger, but Daeho had learned something important in those 30 years. The other species in the galaxy did not see humans as equals. They saw Earth as a primitive world. They thought humans were like children who needed to be taught how to behave. Lieutenant Hannah Park walked up beside him. She was his tactical officer and one of the best soldiers he had ever known. Before joining the space fleet, she had been in Earth's Special Forces. She knew how to fight. "Sir, we just received a message from command," Hannah said. Her voice was tight with anger. "The Vracath have taken 3 of our colonies." Daeho felt his stomach drop. The Vracath were one of the most powerful species in the Coalition. They had been in space for thousands of years. Their ships were bigger and faster than anything Earth could build. "What reason did they give?" Daeho asked. "They say we broke trade agreements. They say we owe them money and resources. They took the colonies as payment." Daeho turned to face her. "And the Coalition Council? What did they say?" Hannah's jaw tightened. "They ruled in favor of the Vracath. They say it's our fault for not understanding the proper legal procedures." Of course they did. The Coalition had thousands of rules and traditions. Some of them were thousands of years old. Humans were expected to know all of them, even though they had only been in space for a few decades. "There's more," Hannah continued. "The Council says Earth must give up 12 more colonies as additional payment. If we refuse, they will use military force to take them." Daeho closed his eyes. 12 colonies. That was millions of people. Families, children, all of them would become slaves to the Vracath or worse. "What did Earth say?" he asked. Hannah smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a soldier who knew a fight was coming. Earth told them no. "We're going to war." The next few days were chaos. Ships were recalled from all over human space. Soldiers were called up from the reserves. Factories worked day and night to build weapons and ammunition. Earth was preparing for the biggest fight in human history. Daeho received new orders. He was to take the Indomitable to the colony world of New Sol. Intelligence said the Vracath fleet would attack there first. It was one of the richest human colonies and close to Vracath space. On the journey, Daeho met with his officers. Hannah was there, along with Specialist Minho Choi, his combat engineer. Minho was young but brilliant. He could fix anything and often found creative solutions to problems. "The Vracath are bringing 200 ships," Hannah said, displaying the intelligence reports. "We have 30 ships defending New Sol. The odds are not good." "Tell me about Vracath tactics," Daeho said. Hannah pulled up several files. "They follow traditional coalition warfare. First, they will send a formal challenge. Then both fleets will meet in open space away from planets and stations. They will form battle lines and advance toward each other. The battle continues until one side surrenders or is destroyed." Daeho frowned. "They always fight the same way?" "Always. It's part of their honor code. There are strict rules. No surprise attacks. No targeting civilian ships. No fighting near populated areas. Both sides must agree on the time and place of battle." "That's insane," Minho said. "Why would anyone fight that way?" Hannah shrugged. "It's how they've done it for thousands of years. In the Coalition, warfare is almost like a sport. There are winners and losers, but the goal is to minimize casualties and preserve honor." Daeho leaned back in his chair. An idea was forming in his mind. "And they expect us to follow these rules?" "Yes, if we don't, the entire Coalition will turn against us. We'll be branded as barbarians and criminals." Daeho looked at each of his officers. "Let me ask you something. If someone breaks into your home and threatens your family, do you fight fair? Do you follow rules?" Nobody answered. They knew where he was going with this. "The Vracath stole 3 of our colonies," Daeho continued. "They're coming to take more. They declared war on us, and now they expect us to fight by their rules? Rules that favor them?" "What are you suggesting?" Hannah asked. "I'm suggesting we fight our way, not their way." When the Indomitable arrived at New Sol, Daeho called a meeting of all the ship captains. They gathered in a virtual conference, their faces appearing on screens around him. Some were old veterans like himself. Others were young officers who had never seen real combat. The Vraketh fleet will arrive in 3 days, Deho told them. They will expect us to meet them in open space for a traditional battle. We will not do that. Sir, if we refuse to fight honorably, the coalition will— one captain began. The coalition has already abandoned us, Deho interrupted. They sided with the Vraketh. They gave Earth an impossible choice. We owe them nothing. He pulled up a tactical display of the new Sol system. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to hide. We're going to use every asteroid, every moon, every piece of debris as cover. We're going to plant mines along their approach routes. We're going to make them bleed for every meter of space they take. Another captain spoke up. The Vraketh have better shields and weapons. In a straight fight, they'll destroy us. Then we won't fight straight, Deho said. We'll hit them when they're not ready. We'll attack from angles they don't expect. We'll make them afraid to move forward. Minho was grinning now. Guerrilla warfare. In space, exactly, Deho confirmed. The Vraketh think war is a game with rules. We're going to show them what real war looks like. Over the next 3 days, the human fleet transformed the new Sol system into a death trap. Minho and his engineers scattered thousands of mines disguised as space debris. They built hidden weapons platforms inside asteroids. They programmed missiles with artificial intelligence that could hunt targets on their own. Hana coordinated the fleet's positions. Instead of forming a battle line, the human ships spread throughout the system. They hid behind moons, lurked in debris fields, and used stealth technology to avoid detection. On the 3rd day, the Vraketh fleet arrived. 200 massive warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. They were beautiful ships, sleek and powerful, decorated with symbols of honor and glory. Deho watched them on his screens. The Vraketh War Master sent a formal challenge, demanding that the human fleet present itself for battle. The message was full of flowery language about honor and courage. Deho deleted the message without responding. The Vraketh fleet waited for an hour. Then another. They sent more messages, growing increasingly confused and angry. Where were the humans? Why wouldn't they answer? This was not how warfare was conducted. Finally, the Vraketh fleet began to advance into the system. They maintained their perfect formation, following the traditional approach vectors that had been used for thousands of years. Deho watched them come. His hands were steady on the controls. Beside him, Hana counted down the distance. They're entering the minefield, she said softly. 3, 2, 1. The space around the Vraketh fleet erupted in fire. The first mine detonated against a Vraketh cruiser. Then another. Then a dozen more. The perfect formation that had taken the Vraketh fleet hours to arrange fell apart in seconds. Ships veered away from explosions only to trigger more mines. Debris from destroyed vessels crashed into other ships. War Master Thelvan stood on his command deck watching in horror. This was not possible. Warfare did not begin this way. There had been no formal acceptance of his challenge. No agreed-upon battlefield. The humans had simply attacked without warning. Raise shields. Return fire, Thelvan ordered, but there was nothing to fire at. The human ships were nowhere to be seen. The Vraketh sensors showed only empty space and floating debris. It was as if ghosts were attacking them. Another explosion rocked Thelvan's flagship. Something had struck them from behind. He looked at his tactical display. A small human vessel had emerged from inside an asteroid, fired a massive solid projectile, and disappeared again before his weapons could track it. What kind of weapon was that? His second officer asked. Kinetic impactor, the weapons officer replied, his voice shaking. A simple chunk of metal accelerated to high speed. Our shields are designed for energy weapons. They barely slow down solid projectiles. Thelvan could not believe what he was hearing. The humans were using primitive weapons? In the year 2847? It was barbaric. It was shameful. It was also devastatingly effective. On the Indomitable, Captain Deho watched the chaos with grim satisfaction. The Vraketh had already lost 40 ships and had not fired a single shot at a human vessel. His plan was working. All ships begin Phase 2, he ordered. Throughout the system, human vessels powered up their engines. They had been hiding, waiting for this moment. Now they struck. Lieutenant Hana had planned every attack vector carefully. The human ships did not approach in straight lines like the Vraketh expected. They came from above and below, using the planet's gravity to slingshot themselves into attack positions. They fired their weapons and immediately retreated, never staying in one place long enough to be targeted. The Vraketh tried to respond, but their training worked against them. They attempted to form battle lines, but the humans refused to engage in a traditional battle. They tried to chase individual human ships, but the humans led them into more minefields and ambush points. Thelvon sent message after message to the human fleet, demanding they fight honorably. Each message went unanswered. He could not understand it. What kind of warrior refused to face their enemy directly? "War Master, we have lost 70 ships," his second officer reported. "We have destroyed only 3 human vessels. Our formation is broken. Our supply ships are under attack. I recommend we withdraw and regroup." Thelvon wanted to argue, but he knew the officer was right. This battle was a disaster. He gave the order to retreat. The Vracath fleet began to pull back, but even their retreat was orderly and predictable. They moved in formation, protecting their damaged ships. The humans did not let them leave easily. They harried the Vracath fleet every step of the way, destroying another dozen ships before the aliens finally escaped the system. When the last Vracath ship disappeared into faster-than-light travel, Deho allowed himself to breathe. They had won. Against impossible odds, they had actually won. "Damage report," he said. 3 ships destroyed, 5 damaged, Hana replied. "Total casualties, 230 personnel. The Vracath lost 82 ships with approximately 40,000 casualties. The price of victory." Daiho thought about the 230 people who had died under his command. Each one had a name, a family, a life, but if they had fought the Vracath way, in a traditional battle, all 30 human ships would have been destroyed. Thousands more would have died. "Send a message to Earth Command," Deho said. "Tell them we held New Sol." While Deho dealt with the aftermath of the battle, Specialist Minho Choi was preparing for a different kind of mission. During the fighting, a Vracath cruiser had been badly damaged. It was still intact but drifting, separated from the rest of its fleet. Minho saw an opportunity. "I want to board that ship," Minho told Deho. "Why?" "It's already disabled. Because the Vracath will try to recover it. If we sabotage it properly, we can turn it into a trap." Deho considered this. It was the kind of dirty trick the Vracath would never expect. "Do it. But be careful." Minho took a team of 12 engineers and soldiers. They approached the damaged cruiser in a small transport, matching its slow rotation. The Vracath ship was massive, easily 10 times larger than any human vessel. Its hull was decorated with intricate patterns that supposedly represented honor and valor. "Looks expensive," one of Minho's team said. "It's about to get a lot less expensive," Minho replied. They cut through the hull and entered the ship. The interior was dark and cold. Emergency lights flickered. They could hear the groan of stressed metal and the hiss of escaping air. The team moved quickly through the corridors. They encountered a few surviving Vracath crew members, but these aliens were injured and confused. They did not resist. Minho's team secured them and moved on. In the engine room, Minho went to work. He did not destroy the engines. That would be too obvious. Instead, he carefully modified them. He programmed the ship's core to overload, but only when specific conditions were met. When the Vracath fleet tried to tow this ship to safety, when they brought it close to their other vessels, then it would explode. "That's cold," one of his soldiers said. "War isn't fair," Minho replied. "If they wanted fair, they shouldn't have stolen our colonies." They finished the sabotage and returned to their transport. As they flew away, Minho looked back at the drifting cruiser. It looked harmless now. The Vracath would think it was salvageable. They would think they were being clever by recovering it. They would be wrong. News of the battle at New Sol spread quickly through the galaxy. The Coalition Council called an emergency session. Ambassador Jiwan Lee was summoned to explain humanity's actions. Jiwan stood before the council, a gathering of dozens of alien species. They all looked at her with various expressions of shock and anger. Some of their faces were hard to read, but she could sense their emotions easily enough. The council leader, an ancient being called Morveth, spoke first. His voice was like grinding stones. "Ambassador Lee, your species has committed grave offenses against the laws of warfare. You attacked without formal challenge. You used deception and trickery. You caused unnecessary casualties. Explain yourself." Jiwan stood tall. She was not intimidated by these aliens, no matter how powerful they thought they were. "The Vracath declared war on us. They stole our colonies. You, this council, sided with them, and now you want to dictate how we defend ourselves? There are rules," Morveth said. "Rules that all civilized species follow. Rules that prevent warfare from becoming barbaric slaughter. Your rules favor the strong, Jiwan shot back. They favor species like the Vraketh, who have been building warships for thousands of years. You expect humanity, which has been in space for only a few decades, to fight by these rules? Rules that guarantee we lose? Another council member spoke up. If you cannot fight honorably, then you should surrender. That is the civilized way. Jiwan laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the chamber. Surrender? Give up millions of our people to alien rule? Watch our colonies burn? No. We will fight with every weapon we have. We will use every tactic we know, and we will not apologize for surviving. Then you leave us no choice, Morveth said. The coalition will deploy additional forces to enforce proper conduct of this war. You will learn to fight correctly, or you will be destroyed. You're welcome to try, Jiwan said. She turned and walked out of the chamber, her head high. Back on the Indomitable, Deho received word of the Council's decision. 5 different alien species were sending ships to join the Vraketh. The human fleet would soon face 500 warships instead of 200. He called another meeting with his officers. They all looked tired. The battle had taken a toll on everyone, physically and mentally. They're sending 500 ships, Deho told them. They want to teach us a lesson. Can we win? Hana asked. Deho thought about it. 500 ships against the 30 or so human vessels that remained operational in this sector. By any traditional calculation, they were doomed. We can't win their way, Deho said. But we're not going to fight their way. We're going to show them something they've never seen before. We're going to show them what humans do when they're backed into a corner. He pulled up star charts and tactical displays. We're going to hit them everywhere at once. Not just here at New Sol, but across every system they control. We're going to make them afraid. We're going to make them realize that declaring war on humanity was the biggest mistake they ever made. Minho was nodding. Guerrilla warfare on a galactic scale. Exactly. They want war? We'll give them war. Just not the kind they're expecting. 6 months into the war, Captain Deho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable and watched New Sol die. The planet burned below him, its cities reduced to ash by orbital bombardment. 3 billion people had lived there. Now they were gone. He had tried to save them. He had fought with everything he had, but the Vraketh had brought too many ships, and this time they had not followed any rules. They had simply surrounded the planet and fired until nothing remained. Sir, Lieutenant Hana said quietly, we need to retreat. If we stay, they'll destroy us too. Deho knew she was right. His ship was damaged. His crew was exhausted. They could not save New Sol, it was already dead. But leaving felt like abandonment. It felt like failure. Give the order, he finally said. All ships retreat to Rally Point 7. As the Indomitable limped away from the burning planet, Deho felt something inside him break. Not his resolve. Not his courage. Something deeper. Something human. The part of him that believed there were limits to what people should do to each other. The war had changed. Both sides had stopped pretending there were rules. Now it was simply about survival. About killing the enemy before they killed you. About making them hurt so badly they would never threaten you again. Earth's government met in emergency session. They had lost New Sol. They had lost 2 other colonies in recent weeks. The Vraketh were no longer trying to conquer human worlds. They were trying to destroy them completely. We need to respond, the Secretary of Defense said. We need to show them we can hurt them just as badly. What are you suggesting? The President asked, though she already knew the answer. Biological weapons. We have strains that will kill Vraketh but leave other species unaffected. We deploy them on Vraketh colonies. Make them feel what we're feeling. The room fell silent. Biological weapons were banned by every civilized species in the galaxy. They were considered too horrible, too indiscriminate. But the people in this room were tired of being civilized while their people died. Do it, the President said quietly. Lieutenant Hana Park led the mission. She took a stealth ship deep into Vraketh territory and released the biological agent into the atmosphere of 3 colony worlds. The agent was designed to spread quickly through Vraketh physiology. It was not instantly fatal. It took days, sometimes weeks. During that time, the infected Vraketh suffered greatly. Hana watched from orbit as the plague spread. She saw cities go dark. She saw the bodies pile up. She felt nothing. New Sol had burned, and now these Vraketh worlds would know the same pain. Mission complete, she reported. Returning to base. Her crew was quiet on the journey home. They had just killed billions of civilians. In the old days, before the war, Such an act would have been unthinkable. Now it was just another mission. The Vraketh retaliated by destroying 2 more human colonies. Humanity responded by making more Vraketh worlds uninhabitable. Back and forth it went, an endless cycle of revenge and death. Captain Deho found that he no longer cared about honor or morality. He cared about protecting what remained of humanity. When captured Vraketh officers refused to give information about their fleet movements, he had them executed. When a Vraketh supply base was found on a neutral world, he ordered it destroyed even though it meant killing innocent civilians who happened to be nearby. "Sir, there are families on that station," one of his officers protested. "There were families on New Seoul too," Deho replied coldly. "Fire!" Specialist Minho Choi threw himself into his work designing ever more destructive weapons. He created bombs that would make entire star systems unsafe for travel. He developed viruses that could destroy ship computers and turn vessels into drifting coffins. He built drones that could hunt ships across multiple systems, never giving up until their target was destroyed. "Is this really necessary?" one of his assistants asked, looking at plans for a weapon that would cause a sun to go supernova. "The Vraketh burned New Seoul," Minho said simply. "Yes, it's necessary." Ambassador Ji-won Lee watched Earth's transformation into a war machine with growing horror. She saw what the conflict was doing to her people. They were becoming monsters. They were doing things that could never be forgiven or forgotten. She sent a message to Earth's leadership. "We need to seek peace. This war is destroying us not just physically but morally. We're losing what makes us human." The response was harsh. 3 colonies have been destroyed. 15 billion of our people are dead. We will stop when the Vraketh are no longer a threat. Not before, Ji-won tried anyway. She reached out to the few coalition members who had not completely turned against humanity. She proposed peace talks, ceasefires, anything to stop the killing. But nobody wanted to listen. Humanity had broken too many rules, killed too many civilians. Even species that had withdrawn from the war now saw Earth as a threat that needed to be eliminated. Meanwhile, the coalition itself was falling apart. Species that had been allies for centuries now argued and fought. Some blamed the Vraketh for starting the war. Others blamed humanity for fighting dishonorably. Several species saw opportunity in the chaos and began settling old grudges with their neighbors. War spread across the galaxy like a disease. What had started as a conflict between Earth and the Vraketh now involved dozens of species. Pirate groups took advantage of the disorder to raid vulnerable worlds. Trade collapsed. Refugees fled from system to system, looking for safety that no longer existed anywhere. 8 months into the war, the Vraketh War Master Thelvan issued a personal challenge to Captain Daiho. It was broadcast across the entire galaxy. Thelvan proposed single combat between champions. 1 representative from each side would fight. The winner would claim victory for their entire species. It was an ancient tradition, a way to end wars without more bloodshed. Many in Earth's government thought Daiho should refuse. It was obviously a trap. The Vraketh did not really intend to honor the outcome. They just wanted to kill Daiho and score a propaganda victory. But Daiho accepted immediately. "Tell Thelvan I'll meet him. Give me the coordinates." "It's a trap," Hana warned. "I know," Daiho said. "That's why we're going to spring it." The meeting was set for neutral space between human and Vraketh territory. Thelvan arrived with his flagship and an honor guard of 6 other ships. He expected Daiho to come alone or with a small escort. He expected some kind of ritual combat, warrior against warrior. Daiho arrived with the Indomitable and opened fire immediately. No warning, no speeches, just pure violence. Thelvan's flagship exploded before he could even give an order to raise shields. The honor guard ships tried to defend themselves, but they were caught completely by surprise. In less than 3 minutes, all 7 Vraketh ships were destroyed. Thousands of Vraketh died, including War Master Thelvan himself. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy," the communications officer reported. "Everyone saw that. They're calling us murderers. They're saying we have no honor at all." "Good," Daiho said. "Let them be afraid. Let them know what happens when you threaten humanity." But even as he said it, Daiho felt hollow inside. He had just murdered thousands of people who came to a peace meeting. Yes, it was probably a trap. Yes, they would have killed him if given the chance. But that did not make what he did right. It just made it necessary. That night, alone in his quarters, Daiho looked at himself in the mirror. The man staring back was a stranger. Hard eyes, scarred face, a killer who justified his actions with logic and strategy. When had he become this person? When had survival become more important than morality? He thought about new soul burning. He thought about the billions of dead. He thought about all the choices he had made, all the lines he had crossed. Were they the right choices? Or had he simply become what the galaxy accused humanity of being? Barbarians who knew only violence. Deho had no answers. He only knew that the war would continue. It would continue until one side was completely destroyed, or until both sides were so exhausted they had no choice but to stop. And every day it continued, both humanity and the Vracath lost a little more of what made them civilized. The cost of war was not measured only in ships destroyed or people killed. It was measured in the pieces of your soul you gave up to keep fighting. And Deho had given up so many pieces, he was not sure there was anything left. The Coalition fleet arrived 2 weeks later. 500 warships from 5 different species, all determined to teach humanity proper warfare. They gathered at a staging point in neutral space, forming a massive armada that stretched for thousands of kilometers. The fleet commander was a Vracath admiral named Corvin. He had fought in dozens of wars over his long life and won every one of them. He believed in the old ways, the honorable ways. These humans would learn respect or they would die. Send scouts to locate the human fleet, Corvin ordered. When we find them, we will issue a formal challenge. This time they will answer. But finding the human fleet proved difficult. The scouts searched system after system and found nothing. Human colony worlds were defended by automated weapons and minefields, but no ships. It was as if the entire human navy had vanished. What Corvin did not know was that Captain Deho had scattered his forces across 24 systems. Each human ship was alone or in small groups, hiding and waiting. They were not going to meet the Coalition fleet in one big battle. They were going to bleed it slowly. The first attack came at night. In Coalition culture, battles were fought during daylight hours. Night was for rest and maintenance. Everyone knew this. It had been the rule for thousands of years. The humans did not care about rules. A pair of human destroyers struck a Coalition supply depot at midnight station time. They destroyed 6 cargo ships and disappeared before defenders could respond. The attack took 15 minutes. The Coalition fleet lost food, ammunition, and fuel they desperately needed. Dishonorable, Admiral Corvin said when he heard the report. They attacked while we slept. Perhaps we should maintain alert status at all times, his second officer suggested. That would exhaust the crews. No, we will continue normal operations. The humans will eventually face us in proper battle. But the attacks continued. Human ships struck at supply lines, communication relays, and isolated patrol groups. They never fought fair. They never announced their presence. They just attacked and vanished like ghosts. Lieutenant Hannah Park commanded one of these raiding groups. She had 3 fast ships under her command, and she used them to terrorize Coalition supply routes. Her tactics were simple. Find a target, hit hard, and run away before reinforcements arrived. Contact ahead, her sensor operator reported. Coalition transport convoy. 6 cargo ships, 2 escorts. Perfect, Hannah said. Come in from above. Target the escorts first. Her ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly above the convoy. They fired missiles before the Coalition escorts even knew they were there. Both escort ships exploded. The cargo ships tried to flee, but they were slow and clumsy. Hannah's ships destroyed them one by one. Any distress signals? She asked. Negative. We jammed their communications. Good. Let's move to the next system. Across Coalition space, similar attacks were happening. Human teams struck everywhere at once. The Coalition fleet tried to respond, but they were too big and slow. By the time they arrived at an attack site, the humans were long gone. The psychological impact was devastating. Coalition crews became nervous and afraid. They jumped at shadows. They expected attacks at any moment. Morale plummeted. Ships that had seemed invincible suddenly felt vulnerable. Specialist Min-Ho Choi took the war even further. He led a special operations team on a daring mission to the Coalition capital world. Their goal was not to cause damage, but to send a message. They infiltrated the planet using fake identification codes that Min-Ho had stolen from captured ships. They bypassed security systems that were designed to stop armies, not small teams of clever humans. They entered the council chambers in the middle of the night, and they left a human flag on each council member's desk. When the council members arrived the next morning and found the flags, panic spread through the government. If humans could get into the council chambers, they could get anywhere. They could assassinate anyone. The mighty coalition suddenly felt very unsafe in their own capital. This is terrorism, Council Leader Morveth declared. Not warfare. But Ambassador Jiwan Lee simply smiled when she heard about it. You declared war on us, she told the council via communication link. Did you think we would only fight where you wanted us to fight? War's not a game. The coalition tried a different approach. If they could not catch the human raiders, they would force humanity into a decisive battle. Admiral Corvin took the entire 500-ship fleet to Earth itself. If we threaten their homeworld, they will have to face us, he said. It was good logic. Humanity could not let Earth be destroyed. They would have to gather their forces and fight a traditional battle. Finally, the coalition would win. But when the fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system, they found it transformed into a fortress. Thousands of defense platforms orbited every planet. Asteroid bases bristled with weapons. Minefields made navigation almost impossible. And hiding somewhere in all that clutter were the human warships. They want us to attack into that? Corvin's second officer said quietly. Corvin stared at the tactical display. He had 500 ships, but if he tried to fight through those defenses, he would lose hundreds of them, maybe all of them. And even if he won, Earth itself was covered with weapons. To take the planet would require a ground invasion, which would cost millions of lives. For the first time in his long career, Corvin felt uncertain. How do you fight an enemy that refused to play by the rules? An enemy that turned every advantage against you? He issued his formal challenge, demanding Earth surrender or face honorable combat. The response came not from a diplomat or admiral, but from Captain Deho himself. Admiral Corvin, Deho's message said, you came to my home system. You threaten my world, and you want me to make it easy for you? No, if you want Earth, come and take it. We'll be waiting. Corvin spent 3 days trying to decide what to do. His fleet sat at the edge of the solar system, not attacking, not retreating. During those 3 days, human raiders struck a dozen more targets throughout coalition space. Supply depots burned. Communication networks went dark. Corvin's fleet was slowly being cut off from the rest of the coalition. Finally, Captain Deho made his move. The Indomitable and 5 other human ships left Earth's defenses and headed straight for the coalition fleet. It looked like suicide. 6 ships against 500. They're finally going to fight properly, Corvin said with satisfaction. All ships prepare for battle. The coalition fleet formed its traditional battle line and advanced to meet the humans. But as they closed the distance, something strange happened. The human ships did not slow down. They accelerated, heading directly toward the center of the coalition formation. What are they doing? Corvin's second officer asked. Too late, Corvin realized the truth. The humans were not coming to fight. They were using the gravity of Earth's sun to slingshot themselves through the coalition fleet at incredible speed. They flashed past the coalition ships in seconds, firing as they went, and then they were gone, diving toward the sun itself. Pursue them, Corvin ordered. The coalition ships tried to follow, but the humans had timed their maneuver perfectly. They skimmed so close to the sun that the radiation would kill any crew not protected by heavy shielding. The coalition ships could not match that trajectory without cooking their own crews, and then the humans emerged on the other side of the sun behind the coalition fleet. Before Corvin could react, Deho's ships fired every weapon they had at the coalition flagship. At point-blank range, the mighty warship's shields failed. The ship exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the entire solar system. Without their commander, without their flagship, the coalition fleet panicked. Some ships tried to retreat. Others tried to attack. The formation collapsed into chaos. Human defense platforms opened fire from Earth orbit. More coalition ships died. All ships retreat, the new coalition commander ordered. Get us out of here! The coalition fleet fled, leaving behind 70 destroyed ships. Captain Deho watched them go from the bridge of the Indomitable. His ship was damaged and his crew was exhausted, but they had won again. How many did we lose? He asked quietly. 2 ships destroyed, Hana reported. The Indomitable took heavy damage but is still functional. Deho nodded. 2 ships, 2 crews, more names to add to the list of the dead. But Earth was safe, at least for now. News of the defeated Earth shook the coalition to its core. For the first time in 800 years, they had lost a major battle. Not just lost, but been humiliated. The humans had tricked them, used their own tactics against them, and made them look like fools. Several species withdrew from the war. They had joined to teach humans a lesson, not to die for Vrakith pride. They went home and closed their borders, wanting nothing more to do with this conflict. Other species became more determined. The Vrakith especially wanted revenge. They called for total war, for the complete destruction of humanity. No more rules, no more honor, just extinction. The galaxy was fracturing. The coalition that had maintained peace for 1,000 years was falling apart. And at the center of it all was a single species that refused to fight the way everyone expected. 1 year after the war began, the galaxy was burning. The great coalition that had maintained peace for 1,000 years was gone. In its place was chaos. Dozens of species fought each other. Old alliances collapsed. New threats emerged. Pirate fleets grew bold, raiding worlds that could no longer defend themselves. Millions of refugees fled from system to system, finding no safety anywhere. Earth had won its war against the Vrakith, but at terrible cost. 15 colony worlds were destroyed. 20 billion humans were dead. The human fleet was reduced to 1/3 of its original size. Every ship was damaged. Every crew was exhausted. And everyone carried scars that would never fully heal. Captain Daeho Kim sat in his command chair on the bridge of the Indomitable. The ship had been rebuilt 3 times during the war. It was held together now by force fields and the stubborn refusal of its crew to let it die. Like everything else human, it survived through determination and spite. "Sir, we have another request for assistance," Lieutenant Hannah Park reported. She looked as tired as Daeho felt. The war had aged them both. "The Keldar system is under attack by pirates. They're asking for help." "The Keldar?" Daeho frowned. "They were part of the coalition fleet that attacked us." "Yes, sir. But now they have no protection. The coalition is gone. They can't defend themselves." Daeho thought about it. A year ago, he would have ignored the request. Let them burn like New Soul burned. But something had changed in recent weeks. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was realizing that revenge solved nothing. Maybe it was just the slow return of his humanity. "Send a response," he said. "Tell them we'll help. But there's a price." Over the next few days, more requests came. Species that had fought against Earth now begged for human protection. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson. Humanity knew how to fight. Really fight. Not the ceremonial battles of the old coalition, but brutal, effective warfare that destroyed enemies. Ambassador Jiwan Lee saw opportunity in the chaos. She proposed something radical, a new alliance, not based on honor and ancient traditions, but on practical defense and survival. Species that joined would receive human protection and military training. In exchange, they would contribute resources and follow human strategic doctrine. "You want to rebuild the coalition?" Earth's president asked during a video conference. "No," G1 said firmly. The coalition was built on outdated ideas. It collapsed because it could not adapt. "I want to build something new, something that works." The first species to join was the Keldar. Captain Daeho led a small fleet to their system and destroyed the pirate force threatening them. It took less than a day. The pirates fled after losing half their ships, shocked by the ferocity of the human response. The Keldar representative met with Daeho afterward. "Thank you for your help. We expected you to refuse given our past conflict." Daeho shrugged. "The war is over. You need protection. We need allies. It's practical. Still, we fought against you. We participated in attacks on your worlds." "Yes," Daeho said quietly. "And if you ever threaten us again, I will destroy you without hesitation. But if you keep the agreement, we'll keep you safe." That's the deal. It was harsh but honest. The Keldar accepted. More species followed. Some joined because they genuinely wanted human protection. Others joined because they were afraid of what humanity would do if they refused. The new alliance grew quickly, built on fear and necessity rather than friendship. Lieutenant Hannah Park found herself in a strange new role. Teacher. She was assigned to train coalition officers in human tactics. It felt wrong at first. These were the same species that had tried to destroy Earth. Now she was teaching them how to fight effectively. "Why should we abandon our traditional methods?" one alien officer asked during training. "They served us well for thousands of years." "They served you well in a galaxy where everyone followed the same rules," Hannah replied. "But that galaxy is gone. Now you face pirates who don't care about honor, warlords who will use any tactic to win. If you want to survive, you need to adapt." She taught them about ambush tactics, guerrilla warfare, and psychological operations. She taught them to think creatively. to use their environment to exploit enemy weaknesses. Most importantly, she taught them that survival mattered more than pride. Some alien officers struggled with the concepts. They had been raised to believe in honor and fair combat. Hana's methods felt wrong to them, but they learned because the alternative was death. The Vraketh remnants posed a difficult problem. Their military was shattered. Their economy was collapsed. Their worlds were devastated by human biological weapons. They had lost everything. Now their few surviving leaders came to Earth, requesting membership in the new alliance. The request caused fierce debate among humans. Many wanted to refuse. The Vraketh had started the war. They had burned New Sol. They deserved no mercy. But Captain Deho surprised everyone by supporting their membership. "We need them," he told Earth's government. "Not because they're strong, but because if we reject them, they'll become desperate. Desperate species do terrible things. They killed billions of our people," someone argued. "Yes, and we killed billions of theirs. The question is, do we want revenge or peace?"
In the end, the Vraketh were accepted but under strict conditions.
They would dismantle their military. Human forces would occupy their worlds for 50 years. They would have no voice in alliance decisions for a generation. It was harsh, but the Vraketh accepted. They had no other choice. Specialist Minho Choi spent his time sharing technology with allied species. The weapons he had developed during the war were now being mass-produced and distributed. Kinetic weapons became standard across the alliance. Mind stealth systems and AI-guided missiles replaced the old energy weapons that the coalition had relied on. "You're making the galaxy more dangerous," one alien scientist told him. "No," Minho replied. "I'm making it more honest. The old coalition pretended war was civilized. It wasn't. It was just slow and inefficient. Now everyone knows the truth." A year and a half after the war began, Captain Deho stood on the bridge of the new Indomitable II. The old ship had finally given up, too damaged to repair. This new vessel was built with lessons learned from the war. It was faster, tougher, and carried weapons that would have terrified the coalition fleet that first attacked New Sol. "Sir, the Joint Task Force is ready to depart," Hana reported. She was now his second in command, promoted after the war. Deho watched the fleet assemble, human ships flying alongside Keldar vessels, Vraketh cruisers operating under human officers, even a few ships from species that had never fought before, now training to defend themselves. It was a strange sight. Ambassador Ji-Won Lee joined him on the bridge. She had worked tirelessly to build the new alliance, formerly called the Terran Compact. Her hair had gone gray during the war. She looked older, wearier, but also somehow more at peace. "Do you think they finally understand?" she asked quietly. Deho considered the question. The galaxy had learned many lessons in the past year. They learned that honor without strength was worthless. They learned that tradition could become a weakness. They learned that sometimes survival required doing terrible things. "They understand that warfare isn't a game," he said. "It's not about honor or glory. It's about winning, surviving, and protecting what matters. That's what we taught them. And what about us? What did we become?" Deho was silent for a long moment. He thought about New Sol burning. He thought about the biological weapons released on Vraketh worlds. He thought about War Master Thelvan's ship exploding, and all the other choices he had made during the war. "We became what we needed to be," he finally said. "We became survivors. We became the species that the galaxy couldn't destroy, no matter how hard they tried. Maybe that's the most human thing of all." Ji-Won nodded slowly. "I just hope we didn't lose too much of ourselves in the process." "We lost a lot," Deho admitted. "But we're still here. Earth is still here, and now we're making sure this never happens again." The Joint Task Force departed on its first mission, to hunt down pirate groups threatening Alliance members. It was dangerous work, but necessary. The galaxy was still chaotic. It would take years, maybe decades, to restore real stability. But the Terran Compact was growing stronger every day. More species joined. Trade routes reopened. Refugees found new homes. Slowly, painfully, order returned to the galaxy. 10 years after the war ended, the transformation was complete. The Terran Compact had become the dominant power in the galaxy. Human military doctrine was taught in every defense academy. Human tactics were studied by every species. And human warships patrolled space, ensuring that no one would repeat the coalition's mistakes. The old coalition was remembered now as a cautionary tale. A civilization that had become so comfortable, so bound by tradition that it could not adapt when challenged. They had believed their way of war was civilized and correct. They had been wrong on Earth. Memorials were built for the 20 billion who died. Their names were carved in stone and metal, a permanent reminder of the cost of the war. Every human child learned about New Sol. They learned about the desperate battles, the terrible choices, and the sacrifices made. But they also learned the crucial lesson: never again. Never again would humanity allow itself to be vulnerable. Never again would they let others dictate how they defended themselves.